your liberty not to be held by the authorities unless the authorities could produce charges against you. That liberty's been around in this country for about 1,000 years, and it's now suffered a serious erosion. And, it's going to take a bit of a job to get it back again.
Does Magna Carta mean nothing to you? Did she die in vain?
Britain, 1215. A row kicked off between King John and the barons over money. They rowed the king out to an island in the Thames, and he couldn't come back until he had signed the Magna Carta. The important bit is Clause 39. No free man shall be imprisoned except by the lawful judgment of his equals or by the law of the land. No one could be locked up without being charged before a court, and everyone was innocent until proven guilty by a jury. This was called habeas corpus. In 1772, a captain of a slave ship brought one of the slaves back to England, so some Quakers got a writ of habeas corpus. The slave was brought before a court, but as there was no charge, he was released. The judge ruled that slavery is so odious that nothing can be suffered to support it. A few years later, Britain banned slavery completely. Habeas corpus was suspended in Britain in the dark days of 1940. The Nazis were on the brink of invasion, so Churchill passed a law giving him the power to lock up fascists without charge. He hated the idea and called this power the foundation of all totalitarian government. When he knew the Germans couldn't invade, Churchill tore up the law, and the fascists were released. In 1971, the British government tried to crush the IRA by bringing in a law called internment. This meant the government could detain suspected terrorists without charge, but it completely backfired.
Suddenly internment comes in, you can be interred without trial. You have one judge, no jury, boom, you're off. That was a massive recruitment for Republicans. Massive recruitment. There's natural injustice, and people just go, why the fuck should we do this? What are we going to do? We're going to fight it. How are you going to fight it? Well, son, come and talk to me.
The 2005 Prevention of Terrorism Act abolished habeas corpus. The Home Secretary gave himself the power to put you under house arrest without charge. Jennifer and Des are two retired headmistresses who help people who have been imprisoned in their own home.
It was the radio on. Malud? He's here.
Oh, yes?
Yes.
That's the toilet. You see? You open the toilet seat. Can you hold the door with your feet just on this? Yeah. That's the toilet here. The toilet's here. Seat, you can see it facing the table where I eat, where I sleep, where I exercise, and where I cook. I've been telling them that they need to have at least two separate places. I'm locked up in here for 15 and a half hours every day for unlimited period of time. I'm not allowed to let anyone into my premises. I have to sign every day in a police station, and I am tagged. As you see, I have the tagging equipment here, one tag, and the box of the tagging is over there. There is no limit, absolutely no limit. It's indefinite. There is one thing which I haven't showed you as well. Part of my bail condition, which is one of the worst ones, is they gave me a map. Between the 8.5 hours that I am out, I need to stick by this map, which is, as you see here, the green area. That's where I'm stuck. One station, second station, and that's it. I'm stuck here.
And what happens if you go outside that area?
I'll go back to prison immediately. They will send me back to prison, breach of my bail condition.
Who drew that map?
It's a judge. Just drew it, picked the pen and drew it randomly. That is it.
And is it almost like a prison?
It is worse than prison, because you can see your freedom outside the window, but you can't go out there and enjoy yourself. Like my life is being destroyed.
Malud was first arrested in 2002.
The recent arrests of Algerian suspects, both here and elsewhere in Europe, are the result of unprecedented cooperation between Britain, France and Algeria.
This cooperation meant passing on to the British police intelligence extracted using torture. It said that Maloud and 8 other men had been making the deadly poison ricin in a flat in Wood Green. They were all arrested and the flat was raided. The police took every precaution as they found a handful of cherry stones, a coffee grinder and a jar of Nivea. These dangerous materials were sent to the lab for testing, but before the results came back...
As the arrests that were made earlier today show, this danger is present and real and with us now, and its potential is huge.
What got less publicity was the fact that at the end of the day, there wasn't any ricin.
But this detail didn't stop Maloud's case being used as a reason to invade Iraq.
The President of the United States and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
It's my honor to welcome Tony Blair back to the White House. Recently, Tony Blair's government routed out a poison plot. It should say to the people of Great Britain, there is a present danger, that weapons of mass destruction are a danger to people who love freedom.
We know that these terrorist networks would use any means they can to cause maximum death and destruction.
I want to congratulate you on your fabulous job of using your intelligence and your law enforcement to protect the people of Great Britain.
But at the United Nations, Colin Powell got a bit carried away.
The network is teaching its operatives how to produce ricin. Less than a pinch of ricin in your food, and death comes within 72 hours. It is fatal.
And so we went to war. Back in England, Maloud was still awaiting trial in Belmarsh High Security Prison.
All the way through the 2.5 years, I felt like a convicted terrorist.
At the end of 2004, still no ricin, the ricin trial finally began. Some jurors from the trial have come forward, on condition their identities are not fully revealed.
And I kept on expecting, in a kind of fair-minded way, that the prosecution would eventually provide us with some real evidence for this. And it never appeared, it never turned up.
The day the prosecution closed their case, I would just remember sitting there with my jaw open and thinking, wow, I can't believe it. What are these guys doing here?
They were innocent. They gave innocent to all 4. Only 1 was condemned. So 4 were declared.
And they didn't say that he was involved, and they just said a nuisance.
Yes, but the other 4 were acquitted, and then they dropped the case.
Months go by in that particular year after the acquittal. The government picks them up again.
2 months after the July bombing, they came to rearrest me, saying because you were involved in the ricin case, and therefore you're a threat to national security, and therefore the Home Office have the right to deport you, even though I was cleared of the ricin. So-called ricin, which never existed.
Did he tell you about his rearrest?
Well, it said that they came at about 4 in the morning, about 30 police.
Well, what woke him up was the people in the flat downstairs, a mother with 2 children, screaming in terror. They went in there first.
They went to the wrong flat?
Yes.
Shields and the, mask, guns, torchlight, everything. They just break my door and...
And he put up his hands like this, and one of them caught him by the wrist and threw him down, and the others came and they carried him into his living room.
Pushed me to the floor and then jumped on my back. I couldn't even breathe. They were all, about 8 of them or 10 on my back.
Now, if they believed he was a threat to security or likely to abscond, would they have left him free the whole of August?
They've made mistakes, I think, and they don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
You do know about it, don't you?
No.
That there's no ricin.
For 23 years, no senior British minister went to Algeria because the regime was so terrible.
Yeah.
Then you have September the 11th, and there's this war on terror, and Algeria becomes one of the coalition. That immediately means it's an acceptable regime.
Yeah.
So the people who were opposing it are terrorists.
Maloud himself had fled to escape military service. Our government was seriously thinking of deporting people back to Algeria to face, to put it mildly, an uncertain future, and much more likely torture